I want to talk about the solar disruption. And I want to start in Denmark. And some of you may be from Denmark. But Denmark, Copenhagen, is 3 degrees south of Juneau, Alaska. It's not the place you would think of when you think solar. And yet, this school in Copenhagen generates 50% of its annual energy needs from solar energy. Um, no excuse as to whether a place can generate at least 50% with solar. And solar, as you know, has decreased in cost by at least 400 times since 1970. I mean, it has a learning curve of about 22%, and it's going to keep going down. And at the same time, since the year 2000, um, solar has grown the installed base by about 460 times, which is about 38% per year. Now, that keeps growing, and it's going to be over sooner than, I mean, the disruption is going to happen very soon. But the question is, can solar continue growing at this rate? So let's step back and look at the solar cost trends versus conventional energy. Utility scale solar is already below 2 cents, depending on where you build it. 2 cents, 3 cents, 3.5 cents. Below 2, unsubsidized solar is below 2 cents. Qatar, 1.5 cents. Dubai, 1.7 cents. And it's still going down. Every time that a mainstream analyst says it can't go down anymore, it does go down. Where is solar now? Well, utility scale solar is cheaper than natural gas, coal, and nuclear already. Any new natural gas, coal, or nuke built today is gone, is stranded because it can't compete. In fact, solar with battery, with 4 hours of storage, is cheaper than the operating cost of coal, nukes, oil, or gas. Repeat, the total cost of solar plus 4 hours of battery is cheaper than just the operating cost of coal, nukes, oil, and gas. The disruption is here. It's over for all these fossil fuel and nuclear generation options. It's over. And I told you about GE. GE bet that it wasn't going to be over in 20 years. And because of that, we got a market trauma. GE destroyed almost $200 billion in market valuation, 74% of its market cap in less than 2 years, because it doubled down on thermal power construction. And supposedly this collapse caught GE by surprise. Well, hello, you should have listened to me, right? Coal already collapsed. This is the Dow Jones Coal Index, US Coal Index. Its market value of coal has already collapsed since 2008 by 99%. Repeat, in 12 years, the market valuation of the coal industry in America has dropped by more than 99%. It's already collapsed. Oil has collapsed. Coal has collapsed. Natural gas is on its way. Nukes, well, it happened already a long time ago. Over, people, gone. Now, a lot of folks talk about grid parity, and I already told you about it. 2 cents for utility scale solar, right? But is grid parity the tipping point? Well, let's talk about it. In China and in most cities around the world, commercial and industrial rooftop solar, unsubsidized, is already cheaper than grid, right? Than whatever you can buy electricity on the grid. Now, again, The experts had said that it would take decades for this to happen. And yet, in 344 cities in China, solar on the rooftop is already cheaper without subsidies than grid electricity. And this takes us to what I call God parity. God parity is the point of no return. So what is God parity? It's when the cost of solar rooftop generation on your rooftop, whether it's residential, commercial, or industrial, falls below the cost of transmission, not just the cost of that you buy grid electricity, the cost of transmission. Now, in some places, transmission is really expensive, 12 cents per kilowatt hour in places like Australia. Right? So when you can generate for less than the cost of transmission, that means that even if the utility can generate at $0 per kilowatt hour, which of course is not possible, solar is getting there, but not quite zero. When you add the cost of transmission and of course, utility, CEO and salary and so on, it's never going to be able to compete with your own rooftop generation. That is God parity. So essentially, utility scale grid electricity will never be able to compete with your own generation. That is God parity. Mathematically, it's impossible for the utility to compete. And that's the tipping point. That, assuming regulation, allows solar to happen, which right now is the main challenge. Essentially, that's the tipping point. Anytime the cost of solar falls below the cost of transmission, that's the tipping point. That's when everybody's best selfish economic interest tells them to put up solar on the rooftop because of purely economic reasons. And we are here. A lot of places around the world are already below God parity. New builds, residential in California, in Australia. A lot of places are already. That's why, according to PwC, more than 2/3 of corporations are actively pursuing solar purchases. That's because of purely economic reasons. And this is a double disruption for nukes and natural gas and coal and oil and so on. So every factory, every warehouse, every building, every house is going to have solar and later batteries for purely economic reasons. Let me plug my latest report on rethinking food and agriculture. If you haven't read it, please do. It's free on rethinkx.com. The disruption of food and agriculture in the 2020s will be every bit as consequential and as large as the disruptions in energy and transportation that I just talked about. So let me take you back to the future. I started with the horses and the disruption of the cars. We are here, 2020. We're driving typewriters on wheels. And if you don't know what a typewriter is, I've made my point. They were wiped out very quickly by PCs. And over the next 10 years, we're gonna see the deepest, fastest, most consequential disruption of energy, transportation, food, infrastructure, the urban landscape that we've ever seen in history. And it's gonna happen in the 2020s. And just again, to remind you, this is not an energy transition. This is a technology disruption. It's going to happen despite governments, not because of governments. It's going to happen for purely economic reasons. Thank you.